This is the JTV Caribbean News. I am Sean Rose. Taiwan's ambassador to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Weber Shi, on Tuesday presented a check for $200,000 to Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves as a donation for emergency relief and humanitarian aid in the aftermath of the devastating floods on Christmas Eve. The check was presented on behalf of the government of Taiwan. 9 persons died in the disaster while 4 are still missing. 5 persons were injured and 209 residents are homeless. Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Gonsalves, has described as horrific the damage in parts of mainland St. Vincent caused by the flooding and landslides triggered by torrential rains on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Critical infrastructure affected included the E.T. Joshua Airport, which was temporarily closed due to flooding, and the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital, where the pediatric ward was also flooded. Several communities were cut off due to damaged bridges and blocked roads. Preliminary assessments confirmed that 20 houses were destroyed and 40 damaged, but as assessments continue, the estimated numbers are expected to increase. The government has identified immediate needs to be housing, shelter, food, water, galvanized blocks, plywood, rafters, and nails. A Virgin Atlantic Airbus suffered substantial damage to its landing gear when it touched down on a flooded runway at Huonora International Airport in St. Lucia on December 24. However, no one was injured. According to Caribbean News Now, flight VS-98 was on its final approach to St. Lucia at about 7:40 p.m. and had just received landing clearance when a nearby river burst its banks from torrential rains and flooded the airport, washing away the weather station and depositing mud and water on the runway. The Virgin Atlantic aircraft touched down on the flooded runway and managed to come to a stop. The onward flight to London Gatwick had to be cancelled, and the damaged aircraft remained in St. Lucia for repairs. The airport was closed on Christmas Day and reopened at 3 p.m. on December 26th. The flooding in St. Lucia resulted from torrential rains on Christmas Eve. Recovery efforts continue in St. Lucia, where rainfall resulted in loss of life and property destruction from landslides and severe flooding. Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Dr. Kenny Anthony, said the damage unleashed by the trough has been extensive and severe. The weather system also battered infrastructure and decimated the agricultural sector. More in this report from Love St. Amy Joseph at HTS News Force.
Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony hosted a press conference at the office of the Prime Minister on Monday to update the nation on the national situation following the deadly December trough. He began by extending condolences to the loved ones of those who lost their lives, saying that as a government and people, the nation shares in their grief and will forever remember that dreadful night. Dr. Anthony says the government of St. Lucia will assist the affected families with the funeral expenses of those who died.
While all died under tragic circumstances, the government is mindful that a police officer lost his life in therefore just after he had assisted some 4 persons to safety. He gave his life in the line of duty. We are thankful for his life of service and his commitment to duty. We thank God for the life of the 11-year-old who survived the tragedy at Elen below the Deriso Gap. Her father died, so did her uncle. It was a miracle that she survived.
The Prime Minister says that while the government has an initial damage assessment report at its disposal, the full economic cost of the damage has not yet been determined. This will be done in the next few days. He says it is, however, clear that the cost of reconstruction will run into several $100 million. He says the government has set itself 5 priorities in the aftermath of the trough and can report that it has successfully met all its objectives in the short term.
We sought to provide care, support and assistance to those who were affected by the floodwaters. Secondly, we were anxious to secure the reopening of our airports to ensure the movement of passengers to and from St. Lucia. Thirdly, we were equally anxious to calm our source tourism markets, eliminate fears and anxieties, and reassure those who had made bookings that we were open for business and that their holidays would not be compromised. Fourthly, we sought to restore water and electricity supplies as quickly as possible. Fifthly, we were determined to restore vehicular traffic around the island.
The Prime Minister noted the assistance coming from neighboring countries and allies in the aftermath of the trough. He says, quote, "Our Caribbean family came to our support immediately without being prompted," unquote.
Without asking, the government of Trinidad and Tobago was the first to respond. The government dispatched supplies by helicopters, then by its national carrier, Caribbean Airlines, and later by its Coast Guard. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis has dispatched via the central bank EC $1 million as a donation.
The Prime Minister says the government is yet to determine the nature of support that will be given to those who lost all their possessions. However, he says school books will be replaced and grants given to parents to purchase lost school uniforms. This will be done on the reopening of schools with the assistance of the teachers at the affected learning institutions. The Prime Minister says the weeks and months ahead will be critical as authorities move to restore normalcy to the island. He urged all to continue in the spirit of love and unity that prevailed immediately after the passage of the trough. Lovely St. Amy Joseph, HTS News Force.
Dominica's government is moving to assist homeowners impacted by last week's serious floods on the island. Heavy rainfall, which began on December 24, caused extensive damage to homes, businesses, and public infrastructure in the southern portion of the island, according to the government. According to the Caribbean Journal, Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit says the country will provide 100% of the assessed value to repair homes and 60% of assessed value for personal household effects destroyed as a result of the storms. Those who are renting homes in the area will receive a rental cost for a limited period. Dominica's government will also be providing limited assistance to businesses which were impacted by the trough system, which also caused serious damage in St. Vincent and St. Lucia. The total cost of the cleanup in Dominica is a little over $300,000 thus far. The total cost of the rehabilitation and mitigation for the affected areas is around $16.7 million, according to the Ministry of Public Works in Dominica. Cayman Islands is looking toward medical tourism with the opening of a mega hospital, Health City, in February 2014. The project is a brainchild of Indian surgeon Dr. Devi Shetty. Project Director Jean Thompson says drawing patients from the Caribbean will be Health City Cayman Islands' first targeted market. Here's more from Cayman 27's Tammy Solomon.
We have identified significant patient volumes already.
Now that Health City Cayman Islands is almost complete, it's starting to look at who will want to receive specialized care here.
Blocks that need health care provided, so we'll actually go at those blocks when we get up and operational.
Project Director Jean Thompson says with 38 million people strong, the Caribbean will be the first targeted market.
Just easier for us to start with the Caribbean at this point in time.
But he says the U.S. is still on his horizon.
The U.S. is the largest market in the world. The issue is that you have to start off slow. The Caribbean is going to provide us the best short-term opportunity to get up and running. And part of the reason is because it's a challenge for some Caribbean countries to get health care into the U.S. because of visas and whatever the case may be.
Those behind the mega hospital here in East End say there is a bit of a hurdle getting patients to come from the region. That's because there is no direct flight from the Eastern Caribbean.
It's no question it's a huge challenge for us. The issue is that when you're going to get health care at a dramatically reduced price and what we're going to offer, people will make those decisions to come here.
Mr. Thompson says the $80 million project is feasible and the hospital will welcome U.S. patients within 6 months of opening.
So we're not going to open the door and welcome every single person in. We're going to ramp it up because that's the way Dr. Shetty does.
And once the doors open in February, he believes medical tourism will start to take hold in the Cayman Islands. Tammy Suleiman, Cayman 27.
Cayman health officials are holding talks with local airlines about direct flights from the Eastern Caribbean. In the meantime, Thompson says with the large deficits in healthcare in the region, people will pass through Cuba and Jamaica to get to Cayman for tertiary healthcare. The Caribbean hotel industry rebounded strongly in November according to the latest data from STR. a global leader in hotel industry performance. Hotel occupancy in the Caribbean rose by 3.6% year over year in November, the industry's strongest month since May. Overall, Caribbean hotel occupancy stood at 66.8%, up from 64.4% in November 2012. For 2013, Caribbean hotel occupancy is now up by 2% to 67.2%. The region's average daily rate rose by 3.6% as well, improving to $156.49, and the 2013's RevPAR, or revenue per available room, is also up 7.3% to $121.26. Overall revenue rose by 8.2% year over year in November, with a total of more than $704 million, and a January to November 2013 total of more than $9 billion. STR's data surveys almost 1,900 properties covering 224,642 rooms in the Caribbean and Bermuda. For the JTV Caribbean News, Sean Rose.
And coming up next on JTV News. The BVI Athletics Association presents dozens of awards to outstanding athletes. Minister Walwyn underscores the benefits of the Reserve Fund. The BVI Health Services Authority honoring the spirit of giving to patients, the community, and to each other. And the arrival of 4 new babies on New Year's Day sets a new record at People's Hospital.